Behind the bright lights and the championships, an entire generation of wrestlers were medicating themselves just to make it to the next town.
It made me feel like Superman.
That's why you flew off the fucking balcony.
And then I snorted myself into a heart attack almost.
Today we're hearing it straight from the men who lived through it, what they took and what it did to them.
Oh man, I knew I was done. I didn't think it was possible I was going to come back after that. I grabbed about 25 painkillers and shoved them in my mouth and just swallowed them, hoping I wouldn't wake up the next day.
One of them died and came back twice. One of them smuggled the locker room's drugs through airport security underneath a live snake. And one of them got so high before walking through the curtain, he forgot the finish, mid-match in front of a paying crowd. This is what addiction did to professional wrestling.
One of the most messed up things I ever heard Shawn say in his life is, I should have taken so many pills I died after WrestleMania 10. I'd have been the biggest star of all time. I'd have been Elvis.
Back in the 90s, Shawn Michaels took 30 to 35 pills a day, consisting mostly of muscle relaxers to deal with the pain from the ring.
He wouldn't be messed up. He'd go in there and he'd kill it every night. And then the second he was done.
In his second book, Michaels said he partied hard to escape feeling lonely and empty inside. HBK did it to pass the time and feel like someone else, because he didn't like who he saw when looking in the mirror.
For me, it was all about running and escaping. And honestly, it was running and escaping from the dude I'd become. Better than having to face that. How about I just take a few of these and knock myself out when I would pay attention to it till tomorrow.
During an interview with Kayfabe Commentaries, Shawn's good friend Kevin Ash described how he and Michaels would time their soma usage when wrestling each other.
Because there were times that me and Shawn Michaels were working against each other and we'd take them before we went to the ring. Because that was the go home when they kicked.
Shawn continued drinking and taking pills post-retirement. He was meant to interfere in Triple H and Undertaker's match at WrestleMania 17. However, Michaels was so wasted backstage on the go-home Raw, these plans were scrapped.
And in walks Shawn, just pilled out of his mind, stumbling all over the place. He's half drooling on himself and stuff. And Taker just looked at me and was like, can you believe this?
This led to Hunter and Shawn falling out for a while, as they went a year without speaking.
Vince had made the determination that Shawn, that was it. Tell him he's done. And they told him, and he immediately came and found me in the middle of the locker room in front of everybody and started just cutting this huge promo on me, yelling at me like we were going to go to blows, and then he stormed out of there and told me to go fuck myself, and he left.
HBK's come to Jesus moment occurred after he'd passed out spending time with his young child. Michael's son would remark how tired his father was, not knowing the true reality of what was going on, especially since Shawn would often pass out onto food. From here, the Heartbreak Kid found God, got sober, and returned to the ring in 2002. The original ECW roster could have made up the entire video, but we'll keep the list to just a few names from the Extreme promotion. Among the most notable users was New Jack, who enjoyed partaking in the Devil's Dandruff right before his matches.
If I get high, I can go get high. And I was snorting every night.
Being high helped New Jack take risks he wouldn't have performed otherwise.
It made me feel like Superman.
That's why you flew off the fucking balcony.
And then I snorted myself into a heart attack almost. That's when I quit.
While talking to Kayfabe Commentaries, Jack revealed how the powder affected him in other ways.
But you're not an angry guy. Were you an angry guy? 1998, here we are.
I was probably on and very intensified. When you snort, for those that don't know, it makes you willy, a wee-wee.
Jack would also distribute white candy to the locker room.
Everybody, the whole locker room.
New Jack
Almost broke his hands trying to get into the gimmicked bag when we did this game, as you might imagine.
Hold on. Oh, fuck you.
It's a prop.
It ain't real?
It's a prop.
Speaking to Monty and the Pharaoh, the original gangster revealed he'd barely touched anything until he joined ECW.
When I hit ECW, I started doing. I was popping pills.
Oh boy.
Before my matches, they'd be like, I don't want to, Paulie, I don't want to work New Jack. He up there, he fucking high. You know what I mean?
Right.
Oh my God. I'd be sitting up top snorting.
Right.
You know what I mean? And they go up and look at the fucking lineup sheet and see that name against their name next to mine and be like, fuck that, I'm not working here.
Right.
New Jack passed away in 2021 at 58 from a heart issue, having suffered numerous health issues in the years prior. The Sandman was infamous for drinking 10 to 48 beers before wrestling, but he was also known for getting off his head, including the time he was hallucinating during a match with Sabu and November to Remember 97.
There was acid floating around the dressing room. He took a double dose. He thought he'd seen Godzilla in the ring. He kept saying, here, lizard, lizard, lizard. He's talking to me. He thought he was fighting a monster. He was tripping big time. I was just trying to stay alive.
The Extreme icon has come back to life twice after being revived due to taking too much.
We go to 3 different doctors in Philadelphia every Friday. I would get 90 Oxycontin 80s, 300 Percocets, 300 2 milligram Xanaxes, and 300 sobers.
I found bills in my mail that show that he was resuscitated from shooting up and flatlining, and he never told me.
I wasn't telling her. Oh yeah, I OD'd fucking on the road last week.
The Travelodge in Philadelphia was where many of ECW stars took their gimmicks and raised hell. The Sandman once found himself in the same room he'd previously stayed at before. Upon checking in before an event, a realization occurred. Kayfabe Commentaries host Sean Oliver told the story on Rewind, Recap, Relive.
Hack says, all of a sudden, is this room 725? And they're like, yeah. He's like, oh my God. And he runs to the corner and begins to pull up the carpet. And he pulls out a bag of blow. And everyone's like, what? He's like, he goes, I put it in here. He was boarding a plane. He stashed it months ago and couldn't get it on the plane. He didn't know what to do, so he hid it under the carpet in room 725.
Sandman got clean in 2021, but still performs his iconic beer-bashing entrance. Raven has joked that if you passed the P-test in the original ECW, you were fired. Raven was in a unique spot, since his character required him to be high, at least in a kayfabe sense. However, life more than imitated art in that respect, and vice versa. Raven discussed this paradox in an interview provided by Title Match Wrestling.
I didn't realize how personal it was going to become, and then the character became so personal that life started to imitate, so art imitated life. But then life started to imitate art because in some perverse way, I was trying to stay true to who I created, to Raven, even though Raven was based on me. But so life imitated art. I mean, art imitated life, but then life started to imitate art, and that's when things went downhill.
Raven prided himself on taking the most, but still being functional.
Oxycontin 80 is the equivalent of 16 Percocet. I went from a 20 to a 40 to an 80 to a couple 80s to a bunch of 80s. But I was doing so many Oxycontins a day that I was like, I'm gonna.
This was always going to hold him back in WCW and WWF. However, in ECW, it came with the territory. Raven spoke about this high tolerance while talking to the Wrestling History channel on YouTube.
I'm as guilty of it as anybody, but more so than most. I would never go out there drunk off my ass, where I couldn't. I would never go out there where I couldn't function. I never used to let myself get like that anyway. It was rare that I'd ever get to the point where I was like, ugh, ugh. Yeah. Well, unfortunately, I was proud of that, and so it was like something I did more and more of because I could handle, I could tolerate a shit ton of tolerance. I had a shit high tolerance.
Raven got clean in the early 2000s, but these days he struggles with early onset Parkinson's, not to mention a sleep disorder and various other issues exacerbated from his wrestling career and substance use. Perry Saturn didn't begin partying like a madman until after ECW. Saturn lived up to he and the Flock's gimmick of strung out addicts.
Younger me didn't give a fuck about older me at all.
During an interview with John Paz, Perry described some of the things he and Raven would get up to.
We used to take a pill bottle and put in ecstasy, bite it in, Xanax, muscle somas, shake it up, and we both swallow a bunch of pills and wait and see what high we get.
They didn't drink much, but they more than made up for that by taking pretty much everything.
I would take, on an average day, probably 50 pain pills, 20 muscle relaxers, and if we were out partying, 20-25 tabs of ecstasy.
Saturn said he never got high before the matches, only after. That being said, there's times where you could tell based on his appearance, he just had a rough night.
I had, for a couple of years, 6 different doctors writing me prescriptions.
Once he left WCW for WWF, any semblance of recreational partying descended into lonely addiction.
Dean and I were traveling together, me and Dean Malenko, and he's keeping my feet on the earth. Once he became an agent, I was left on my own, and that was it. I was stoned from the time I got up till the time I went to bed. I'd go 2-3 days without sleeping. I can't remember matches. Probably the last 10 years of my career that I was a severe drug addict. Amazing that I was able to make it to work as much as I did.
Perry switched to even harder stuff once his wrestling career ended in 2004.
I got shot, and I was all screwed up, and my wife had died of drug overdose. And then I started dating this chick, and she introduced me to meth. And that was it.
This resulted in him becoming homeless until he finally got clean in 2009.
I was a WWE superstar for whatever that means. One day and the next day I'm eating out of trash cans, trying to figure out how I'm going to steal money so I can get high. I got myself into it. I don't think anybody can help you out of that. Because I had tons of friends who would have helped me, but until I was ready to make a change, no one else could help me.
I tell you that it absolutely ruined my life, and I went from having everything to having nothing, and to this day barely getting by. You know, I barely survive now. Still, a lot of times, I get my food at the Salvation Army because I just don't have any money.
And it's the first time in my life, my adult life anyways, I've been clean, you know. So dealing with all that caused a lot. Drugs took everything from me. It took me a long time to get it together.
Kurt Angle began taking pain meds in 2003 after badly hurting his neck for the second time. Angle rushed back to the ring in 3 months and became reliant on pills for the next decade.
But I was taking 65 extra drink Vicodin in a day. And I was hiding it from the company. I was in serious trouble.
And does that even make you high at that point, or does it just keep you from going into withdrawals?
It kept me from going through withdrawals, but there were times where I passed out.
In 2003, Kurt cut off contact with his sister, who herself was addicted only to a much harder substance. Angle said he wouldn't speak to her again until she got clean, but by September, she'd passed away. Meanwhile, Kurt was fighting his own battle with addiction.
Here I am, I'm in a hotel room, and I look at my pills. I said, fuck it. I took 20 of them, threw them in my mouth, chewed them up, and swallowed them.
Oh my God.
I didn't wake up till 5 o'clock in the afternoon the next day. And I had the biggest match of my career.
That night.
Following his sister's passing, Angle was set to wrestle Brock Lesnar in a 1-hour Iron Man match on SmackDown.
But I kept thinking, I know my sister will want me to. And I knew that I wouldn't have to feel that pain of losing my sister, at least for that hour.
Yeah.
So I went ahead and did it. And it was actually one of my best performances of my career, which is kind of crazy, but...
Kurt made it to the show and worked a wrestling masterclass with Brock. Angle never took anything before the matches, so despite his addiction, he was always able to turn it on in the ring. After departing WWE for TNA, Kurt enjoyed the lighter road schedule, but didn't tone things down in the ring or when the cameras were off. He then added alcohol to the mix, which resulted in 4 DUIs in 5 years. On the brink of losing everything, Angle entered rehab in 2013 and has been clean ever since.
And I remember calling my wife from jail after my 4th DUI, and she said, listen, I can't do this anymore. You either go to rehab or I'm taking the kids and I'm leaving. And so I went to rehab because I didn't want to lose my wife and my kids.
X-Pac, real name Shawn Waltman, began taking pain pills in the 90s as the 1-2-3 kid. This resulted in his first trip to rehab. From there, he took various things for recreation, but was able to keep things under control for a while.
You know, I had some good years, like during, you might remember as the Attitude Era years, like the mid to late 90s. I was clean, you know. I still use cannabis, but like I wasn't drinking, nothing else, you know.
After leaving WWE in 2002, Waltman began shooting up very hard substances. He once got high before a match with AJ Styles in TNA, where he subsequently forgot the finish.
And I'm in the damn bathroom stall shooting up.
Oh Jesus!
And he can't even talk about his match with me, and I just let him do the match. By experience, I forgot what the finish was, so like we had an open-ended match, like we never got the finish off.
X-Pac got kicked out of rehab in 2004 amidst a dysfunctional relationship with China. He later moved to Mexico in 2007, where he also began drinking heavily.
The worst thing I can remember doing, man, is having some in a bar down in a strip club in Tijuana, and going in the bathroom stall to shoot it.
Yeah.
And taking water out of the toilet to do it with, man.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, man, that's how fucking bad I was.
A year later, Waltman attempted to end it all. Another stint in rehab followed, which led him on the road to recovery. Shawn was able to kick the really hard drugs, but struggled with pain pills until a 2011 arrest in Florida was the final straw. This was the catalyst for him to finally come out the other side. Jake the Snake Roberts' struggles with addiction and recovery have been well documented, so we'll narrow it down to a few interesting stories he's told over the years, like during his first trip to Mexico, which he touched on in an episode of his Snake Pit podcast.
I asked one of the guys to help me find some and he says, no problem, go back to your hotel room. So I went back to my hotel room, and after about an hour, there's a knock on the door, and I look through the peephole, and it's the cops. I'm like, oh my God, I don't even have anything yet. So I opened the door, and they went, here you go, senor. And they had something in their hand. I said, what? Here's your thing. I'm like, what? And finally, he just reached my hand and put it in my hand. And I look at my hand, and it's, that's not mine. You just gave that to me. He's like, shh, be quiet. And I shut the door, and I'm looking at the fucking people like, oh, they're going to come back in now and bust me. Oh, my God, what should I do? Should I flush it down the toilet? Thank God I didn't.
Jake also talks about being trusted with everyone's gimmicks when traveling through airports. Roberts kept it all in his snake bag. WWF had banned pot, so all the boys were on the heaviest stuff. The snake laid on top of all the items, so when security looked in the bag, they couldn't see past the reptile.
Only one time did they want to see inside that bag. And I nearly shit myself when they said they wanted to see the snake. I said, okay, you guys get him out because he's one mad son of a bitch. I just want you to know that you're probably going to get fucking bit. Go ahead, there he is. Go ahead. I'm not doing it. And they looked at the bag, all they seen was that snake, you know, and it was a big one, about a 100-pounder, 120-pounder.
Mm-hmm.
And they just looked at it and went, oh, fuck, never mind. That's good. Go ahead.
Multiple attempts at rehab failed, including one time where Jake slipped right back into his old ways as soon as he was out the door.
When I fell off the edge of the earth, man, the only place I went was the dealer. That's the only place I went.
Hell, the time I went in for 4 months, man, I go across the stage and get my diploma, so to speak, from finishing this course, being in rehab for 4 months. I go out the other side, pick up a payphone and call my dealer. He meets me outside the damn door, man, with a big rock, you know, and a stem. Thank you. Damn. I made it. But that's the insanity of the disease.
With the help of Diamond Dallas Page, Jake was able to get sober. As he spent 3 years in the accountability crib with DDP, Roberts has now been clean for 13 years. Buff Bagwell is another wrestler who DDP has helped get sober, but like with Jake, it took a lot of effort. Buff's neck injury in '98 was a significant moment. At this point, he was already a recreational substance user while also taking anabolics. On his YouTube channel, Bagwell described how hurting his neck was a turning point for him.
Take a pain pill, my neck was kind of hurting. What happens from that 1 or 2 pills and 1 or 2 beers to the 20-something pills and the 20-something beers a day? It would take too long to explain that because I don't know how to explain it. But it happens, and it happens quicker than you think.
Buff was able to function for a while, but eventually cracks started to appear. He admitted to taking 40 somas and drinking 24 beers a day when still wrestling full-time. All this while being on anabolics year-round.
You take, 2 Vicodins, 2 somas, and then you come down and drink some beer, and then you take 2 more kinds of pills that get you up to go wrestle, and then you'll take another little combo to come back down.
I was rich. I had a mansion. I had the cars, I had my motorcycles, I was in shape to the umph degree. I had no thing that wasn't done properly, so it's time to get messed up. I was the best functioning addict in the world until I wasn't.
WCW's closure and being fired from the WWF a week after his debut were 2 more big hardships Bagwell faced. Now the depression had truly set in.
When the WWF released me from my contract, the leash was gone, and I was on a quick spiral. Now, I was making it make sense for me. This was something that I knew that I deserved this. I have been done wrong, I have been wronged, and I am going to drink because of it. I was the victim.
July 9th, 2001 will go down as the worst day of my entire life. That was the beginning of a 20-year addiction. There wasn't a day that didn't go by for 20 years that I wasn't some percent sedated.
Buff got into 2 major car accidents, one of which he was driving impaired in. The wreck ultimately cost him his leg, but before it was removed, Bagwell continued his downward spiral.
I've got a broke face, and I'm still good looking. Look at me.
You asked if I was an addict, let's stick to that. The fucking answer is no. When somebody hands me a pain pill, I hand it back to them over the last 15 years. So you don't know. So don't say you do, because you've never had one.
You're just being a dumbass. Motherfucker, I'm not being a dumbass. You're fucking twisting it around to make yourself the good guy you always fucking do. Come on, man.
A 2021 arrest saw Buff enlist the help of DDP. A year later, Bagwell appeared on Page's reality show in a bid to change his ways while still being in the throes of addiction.
I'm not fucked up. I would never lie to you.
No, dude, fucking lie all the time. You're a motherfucking addict. Take some fucking accountability, bro. Take some accountability.
After filming Wrapped, Buff received an intervention, which saw him enter rehab for the 5th time.
What was the conflict that you had?
I just didn't want to get back out there again, that I had relapsed.
Ever since then, he's been clean and sober.
If it wasn't for Dallas Page, his team, and the people in that house, I truly don't think I would be here right now.
The Iron Sheik lived the gimmick, and while his substance use wasn't part of his on-screen character, it was common knowledge among those who followed wrestling, especially in the world of shoot interviews, where the Sheik became one of the most iconic internet memes in the wrestling space.
My young days, maybe it depends. We make $10,000 to $15,000 a week. Sometimes we spend $1,000 easy for A to Z medicine a day.
A day?
A day.
Wow. Is it true that the Iron Sheik used to do headstands while snorting? They used to go up, put your feet up, and stand on your head to do the lines.
Right, used to. Not anymore.
Not anymore. The hard stuff?
Oh, hard stuff. Maybe Iron Sheik?
Maybe Iron Sheik. Maybe Iron Sheik for everything, right? Maybe this is your bag. Did you bring this in, Eric?
Perhaps the most famous clip saw the Sheik trying to order his quote-unquote medicine over the phone.
Fuck the tomorrow! You know fuck that I'm come tonight! Fucking bullshit!
The Sheik's first ever WWF administered pee test didn't exactly go as he thought.
Kennedy message, man! You tell me my test was a positive. And the positive was good. And Vince told me, no, Sheik, positive, that is bad. That is affirmative.
The Sheik has been fired multiple times from the WWF, including when he was caught by police while riding with Jim Duggan in '87.
Police say marijuana was found in the ashtray, and they also found in some luggage. By the way, Duggan and the Iron Sheik are supposed to be bitter rivals.
The car was full of Sheik's medicine, plus he and Hacksaw were bitter rivals at the time when kayfabe was still alive, so it wasn't a good look all round.
They went through my stuff, I was cool, and Sheik, they opened up his wallet, boom.
The arrest of Sheik and Duggan pulled the curtain back on our industry in a way that had never really been pulled back.
Another instance saw Sheik get released after putting his medicine in the berserker's bag going through an airport.
The Iron Sheik comes up to me and we're going passing into customs from the U.S. to Edmonton. Okay. John, I hope you don't mind. I put the gimmick in your bag. I said, what did you just say? Drugs, cocaine, and smoky.
The Sheik started to get clean around 2010 and remained that way until his passing from a heart issue in 2023, aged 81. Now if you enjoyed this video, be sure to check out our similar video on Kurt Angle revealing the damage wrestling did to his body. Hope you have a great day, and I'll see you next time.